Have you ever wondered why some people get drawn to you like you're an inescapable magnet? It's not because you're breathtakingly beautiful. It's not because you're the most perfect person in the room. Some people fall for you as if they're falling into the dream they've carried their entire life. And you are just a symbol that represents that dream. Machiavelli once said that every human connection, whether it's called love, loyalty, or admiration, is rooted in personal benefit and unmet desire. Love is not magic. It is psychological strategy, a silent exchange between what one person lacks inside and the signals the other sends out. When someone falls in love with you, they don't really love you. They love the meaning you represent within their inner world. They love the feeling they get when they're around you. And even deeper, they love the emotional power you unknowingly hold. No one falls in love purely by accident. Feelings always originate from a need, whether it's the need to be heard, to be healed, to escape, or to conquer, and you, knowingly or not, have stepped into the role they've been waiting for. You are the exit. You are the test. You are the sweet trap their mind willingly walks into, just to verify something unresolved within themselves. Machiavelli would never tell you that love is a sacred symphony. He would tell you it's a chessboard, and the one who sees the motives behind emotions is the one who cannot be controlled. From that vantage point, we begin our journey into the two real reasons someone falls obsessively in love with you. Neither has anything to do with who you are, but everything to do with what you awaken in their soul. Machiavelli never believed that people act without reason. We are always drawn to what we lack, and in love, this becomes even more obvious than on any battlefield. People are attracted to you not because of who you are, but because you radiate an energy they've never been able to generate within themselves. You might be self-reliant, while they've lived their whole life in dependence. You might be cold and unreadable, while they wear their emotions on their sleeve. You might live with clarity, while they are trapped in inner chaos. That's why they seek you out, not to love you, but to possess you. Love, in this case, is no longer a connection. It becomes a silent negotiation. One side holds the psychological asset, the other one craves. They don't even realize it, but their mind is operating like a strategist. They approach you with gentle eyes, but behind that look is a purpose. They need you as a tool to compensate for what they lack. And you, if you're not aware, I will believe they love you for who you are. You'll confuse emotional dependence with sincere affection. You'll call admiration connection. You'll think their gaze is love, when in truth, they're simply obsessed with an idealized version of you they've created in their own mind. Machiavelli called this the illusion of power in relationships. When the other person offers you the light of admiration, they are unconsciously handing over control of their emotions to you. And once they depend on you to feel complete, they will do whatever it takes to keep you close, even if it means sacrificing their self-respect or inner freedom. But this is where everything starts to fall apart. Because no one can play a role forever, you will grow tired of being someone's perfect mirror. You will begin to reveal your humanness, your mistakes, your contradictions, your limits. And when that happens, the pedestal they put you on will begin to crack. The very things they once adored in you, your independence, your mystery, your uniqueness, now become the things they criticize, resent, or grow bored of. Why? Because you no longer serve as an effective tool to cover up their own inner void. And as Machiavelli once said, when a form of power no longer serves its purpose, it gets replaced. Love, when born out of lack, will always end in disappointment. You are no longer the person they loved. You simply no longer help them forget what they've never dared to face within themselves. That's why you cannot afford to be blind. Because if you confuse being loved with being psychologically used, you'll become a slave, wearing the mask of someone admired. And Machiavelli always warned, those who fail to see the motives of others will be controlled by their own naivety. So when someone falls for you, ask yourself, do they really see you? Or do they only see the shadow of themselves projected onto you? If you represent what they lack, you are holding an invisible kind of power. But remember, all power in love comes with responsibility. You can become the spark that inspires them to grow stronger. Or you can become their addiction, one that keeps them from ever standing on their own 2 feet. And that is no longer love. It is an internal war dressed in romance. Not everyone falls in love with you because of who you are now. Some people fall for you because you awaken in them something they once lost. A gaze that reminds them of a father who passed away. A voice that echoes a mother who left. A silence that recalls the first person who made them feel small. Or a mystery that stirs up an old wound that never had a name. You're not the one who created those memories, but you awaken them. You touch an archetype that has been sleeping deep inside their psyche for a very long time. And suddenly, it comes alive. Fierce, overwhelming, unstoppable. Machiavelli would never call this fate or soulmates. He would say, this is the moment people stop distinguishing between reality and symbolism. They're not seeing you through a lens of clarity. They're seeing you as an unconscious symbol, an image that has existed in their mind since the past, a storyline they once left unfinished, now wanting to relive it with a different ending. That's why they love you so irrationally. Not because you're perfect, but because you fit into a missing space buried deep in their memory. That love doesn't come from the present. It comes from an unfinished obsession from the past. You are someone new, but you represent an old emotional ghost, a symbol they can't forget, a wound they've never healed, a power dynamic they've never won. And now, they see you as a chance to rewrite the ending to a chapter they never got to control. In psychology, this is called an unconscious archetype, but Machiavelli would call it a delayed power script, a psychological game that humans keep repeating, not to find happiness, but to reclaim control over something that once made them feel powerless. When they meet you, old fears come back, old hopes come back, but this time, they won't allow themselves to lose again. And that's why they love you, as if you are the only one who can return to them what they once lost. That love is not built on your presence. It's built on a role you happen to play. Machiavelli once said, the most skilled ruler is the one who knows what the other is trying to hide. You must understand, someone who loves you because you remind them of a father, a mother, or a formé l'ouvert, does not truly see you. They see a symbol, a stand-in for their past. And that kind of love is always dangerous, because you will never be able to fulfill a role in a play that isn't yours. You can't be the solution for a wound you didn't cause. You can't carry the hopes of an abandoned child living inside their heart. And sooner or later, you will be punished for not being able to save them from their own past. In the beginning, you're idolized. You are the light, the salvation, the miracle. But when you fail to perform the role they've silently assigned to you, that worship turns into anger, disappointment, even resentment. Machiavelli would say, he who is crowned as king without real merit will be the first to be executed when the crowd awakens from illusion. You may fall into that position. A symbol once admired, now blamed. A dream once cherished, now torn apart. Because you are not the person from their past they are trying to fix. You are yourself. And you do not need to become an emotional archetype just so someone else can rescue themselves. Understanding this is the first step to not getting trapped inside someone else's inner theater. You cannot control who falls in love with you, but you can control whether or not you allow yourself to become a puppet for their past. Stay aware. If someone loves you too fast, too deeply, too irrationally, ask yourself, are they truly in love with you? Or are they just trying to love a lost part of themselves through you? Love begins with a look, but not a look toward the other person. It begins with the first gaze we cast upon ourselves, reflected through someone else. Machiavelli never wrote about love as a ballad. He wrote about it as a tool, a political mirror, where people don't love with their hearts, but with their survival instincts. Anyone who enters a relationship carries a mask. One wears the mask of confidence, the other, the mask of wounds. But behind both, there is simply a mind trying to rediscover itself through the eyes of another. You think you're falling in love with someone, but in truth, you're reliving a relationship with yourself, projected onto another human being. You don't truly see them. You only see fragments of yourself reflected back. The admiration you feel for them is a quality you long to see in yourself. Their tenderness is something you once craved from a mother who didn't hold you long enough. Their silence reminds you of the wound left by a father who never listened to your words. Their coldness is something you once hated, but also learned to use as armor. Machiavelli would say, "The human mind is a castle of warped mirrors." And in love, we believe we found a prince, but in reality, we're just seeing the crown we once dreamed of wearing. Love is not about recognizing someone else. It's about recognizing yourself in that person. That's why love is an intentional illusion. When you love someone, you give them power. The power to reflect back who you think you are. And if they reflect the image you want to see, you'll call it destiny. But if they reflect the fear you've tried to forget, you'll call it toxic. But neither is truly love. Both are just mirrors, tilted at different angles. And when that mirror starts to crack, when they stop saying what you want to hear, when they reveal parts that no longer align with the fantasy you built, when they stop reflecting your most flattering self-image, you stop loving. You feel disappointed, not because they changed, but because the image you once saw in them no longer helps you live out your inner dream of power. Machiavelli called this the loss of influence. The person you once granted the power to help you see yourself no longer serves that purpose, so you quietly begin to withdraw your admiration. You withdraw your attention. You withdraw your feelings. Sometimes, you even withdraw yourself. At this point, love breaks not because of a lack of kindness, but because of an excess of unconscious expectations. You never really loved that person. You only loved the version of yourself that they reflected. And when that mirror breaks, you're forced to face a brutal truth. No one is obligated to maintain the illusion you created. Machiavelli understood this well from the courts where loyalty was built on appearances, not the heart. He observed that when people say someone isn't the same anymore, they're not speaking about that person. They're mourning the collapse of the idealized image they once believed in. Relationships, Zen, are battlefields of reflection. The wise are those who know when that reflection no longer serves their growth. If you love someone the way you love a mirror, you will live in fear. Fear that they will change. Fear that they will stop reflecting the version of you that you want to see. Fear that they will disappear and take with them a part of you that you once believed was real. But if you are awake, you will understand. No one is meant to reflect you forever. You must learn to see yourself without needing someone else to do it for you. Because when you no longer need that mirror to confirm your worth, that's when love truly begins. No longer a game of idealization. No longer an illusion of power, but a relationship between two people who truly see each other and take full responsibility for their own reflection. Every person you've ever loved was a lesson, a chance to see yourself from a perspective you had never fully explored, a different shard of glass, reflecting a part of your soul you hadn't yet mastered. And whether you called them destiny, soulmate, or betrayer, the truth remains the same. They came to lead you back to yourself. Machiavelli wouldn't use poetic language to describe this return. He would call it the re-establishment of inner power. A wise person, no matter how deeply in love, never allows their heart to be held entirely in someone else's hands. He once wrote, "No one deserves full control over your mind, no matter how important they make you feel. Love itself is not the mistake. The mistake is losing awareness in the process of loving. The mistake is forgetting who you are and beginning to define yourself through someone else's gaze. You'll find yourself behaving like someone you barely recognize. You stay silent so they won't get upset. You smile even when your heart is breaking. You overextend just to make them stay. You apologize for things you didn't do wrong. And in the end, you become a prisoner in the very relationship you once called love." But Machiavelli would look you straight in the eye and say, "No love is worthy if it demands you surrender your sovereignty." Take a closer look. The people who hurt you the most were also the ones who made you believe they could complete you. They promised you presence and withdrew as if their absence was the final punishment. But no one can take from you what you never gave them in the first place. And that is what Machiavelli wants you to understand. You gave too much. Not affection, but power. The power to feel worthy. The power to be loved without having to perform a role. The power to keep your most authentic self intact without fearing abandonment. You thought they rejected who you were, but in truth, you never let them see the real you. You only showed them the version you thought they wanted, and that's not love. That's a transaction, an unconscious negotiation for acceptance. Machiavelli would say, "A true king never negotiates his existence with anyone. A exists, and others must adapt. So must you. You don't need anyone to love you in order to know you're valuable. You don't need another gaze to confirm you belong. True love doesn't begin when someone walks into your life. It begins when you stop trying to make someone stay, when you pause and look directly at yourself. See the wounds, see the weaknesses, see the longing to be filled, and still choose to hold your ground. Even if no one comes, that's when you no longer need anyone to complete you. You choose to love as someone who is already whole, who wants to give, not out of need, but out of overflowing peace." Machiavelli called that the love of someone who has built themselves, not a falling into each other driven by emotion, but a conscious decision to walk together without losing personal sovereignty. You no longer need anyone to reflect you. Because you've already seen yourself clearly, you no longer need anyone to revive old memories. Because you've closed that chapter, you no longer love to compensate. You love to expand, and the one across from you will feel that they won't love you like a savior. They'll love you like an ally, strong, independent, awake. Conclusion: love isn't something to seek, but something that awakens you. We grow up believing that love is something out there, a person who will arrive, an open pair of arms, a place to hide when life gets too cold. But then we love, and we break. We love again, and we fall once more. Until one day we realize no one is coming to save us. They only come to awaken the part of us that has been asleep for too long. Machiavelli once said, "The strong never seek rescue. They build their own launch pads." Even while standing in ruins, real love doesn't begin when you find someone. It begins when you dare to face yourself. Raw, unarmed, without decoration. When you stop loving in order to be filled, and start loving because you are already whole enough to choose someone to walk with. Every encounter has a purpose. Some come to bring clarity. Some come to touch a wound you thought had healed. Some come only to give you a push to fall to the bottom. So you have no choice but to rise on your own feet. Machiavelli never looked at love with dreamy eyes. He saw it as the ultimate game of power, where the winner is the one who stays awake in the storm of emotions. Where the strong are those who know no one can possess you unless you lose yourself first. So don't fear broken relationships. Don't regret those who hurt you. They were only the ones holding the key you needed to open a door in your inner world you never dared to enter. Love is not salvation. Love is the shedding of ego. It's the process of no longer living as a beggar and beginning to live as someone who has the right to choose. When you understand this, you'll stop being attractive to those who want to manipulate. You'll stop melting at compliments laced with intention. You'll stop falling into the old patterns you've repeated all your life. You'll watch someone love you and quietly ask, do they truly see me? Or do they see a part of themselves that never felt accepted? And if you love them, you won't love to possess. You'll love as Machiavelli respected power, not to control, but to elevate. Someone who truly loves you will never shrink you to fit the frame they imagined. They'll help you grow, not with promises, but with clear and unwavering presence. And you'll love them the same way, consciously, freely, without bargaining through emotions. If you're in a relationship right now, look closely. Are you being illuminated? Or are you being hidden? If you've just walked away from a relationship, ask yourself, what did you learn about yourself that you were once too afraid to see? And if you're alone, don't be afraid. Solitude is not your enemy. It is the time to reclaim the sovereignty you once gave away too easily. True love begins when you stop looking for someone else and start becoming the person you yourself must learn to respect. If this message awakened something in you, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to walk the path of inner awakening together, click like and subscribe to the channel. Not because I need it, but because maybe you need a place to begin seeing yourself again. Welcome to the journey of reclaiming your power in love.